Everybody who participated in this week's fan Q&A. It means a lot. You guys have no idea. So let's get right into the fan questions. This first question comes from Dan Marino Legacy. And he says, do you think we could use Jakeem Grant as a Tyreek Hill type of a player? This is a very good question. Obviously, Adam Gase, super innovative, super smart, gets his players involved in ways that you couldn't even imagine. Become a Tyreek Hill type of a player. I don't know. Tyreek Hill really had one of the best rookie seasons a player could possibly have. He had an amazing rookie season. I don't know if Jakeem Grant is as talented as a Tyreek Hill. Obviously, Tyreek Hill, super awesome talent coming out of college. If it wasn't for his off-the-field issues, then he would not have fallen as far as he did. And obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs took a chance on him. So I don't know if Jakeem Grant is that talented, but Jakeem Grant, the fastest player to come out of the draft in his draft class, I think he's a better route runner than a lot of people give him credit for, although he has to work on it on the NFL level. He uses his quick change of pace, size, and speed very, very, very well. A lot of people thought we should use him as a hybrid receiver running back type like a Christian McCaffrey this upcoming season. He got limited snaps on the offensive side of the football. He obviously really struggled in the punt returning game last season because he didn't actually do that in college a lot. Like, a lot of people don't understand, he did not return punts a lot in college. So he had to acclimate to that on the next level. So there was a lot of things he had to learn on the NFL level. Let's hope that he's more far along than he was last season, because I think he was kind of a disappointment. He was extremely productive coming out of Texas Tech, and he kind of disappointed a little bit. Him learning special teams and trying to be a receiver on the next level really hurt his growth. Hopefully he's focused more on, I think maybe he's more far along on both sides of the football. Adam Gase has obviously come out and said he has a lot to work on in terms of being a receiver, and learning the offense I think was a big leap for him. So if he can do all of those things, he can be a very electrifying player in this Miami Dolphins offense, whether that be an end arounds, any kind of play action bootleg you could possibly imagine. Obviously he can stretch the field, so I think he's going to be a much improved player this upcoming season. I would look for him to hopefully take a big leap. Hopefully we see some of that in the preseason and training camp. So yes, I think Jakeem Grant can channel some of that magic Tyreek Hill did, but I would lower your expectations a little bit on the Tyreek Hill comparison. Next question comes from Trace. What are your thoughts on the Chargers matchup early in the season? This is a very, very interesting matchup because the Chargers stole some of our prospects, some of the prospects that the Dolphins fans wanted, which I think is a little ironic. They obviously got Forrest Lamp in the second. I think they got Finney in the third. So they got a lot of. They made a whole lot of improvements on their offensive side of the football to add some depth, to maybe stay a little bit less injury prone on that offense, be more reliant, and really improve their depth on that offense. So they improved in that aspect. Obviously they took Forrest Lamp, who all Dolphins fans wanted. We took a fan poll, and I think he got the most votes out of any prospect. So it is going to be interesting. They improved a lot of their woes. Will Finney and Forrest Lamp come in and make that big of an impact right away? We'll see. But I think the Chargers really struggled in pass protection last season. Phillip Rivers got hit a lot, injuries, and staying healthy. So if they can get through the whole offseason without any injuries, it's going to be a very tough matchup for the Miami Dolphins on defense, I think. With obviously Melvin Gordon, obviously Mike Williams coming in for him, Keenan Allen, like I said, Melvin Gordon, Phillip Rivers, a Hall of Famer, Hunter Henry at the tight end position. So it's going to be interesting. I think we could take advantage of our defensive line, though, against the LA Rams offensive line. Our defensive line is extremely underrated. We have one of the deepest defensive lines after this draft in the NFL. I really do believe that. Obviously, William Hayes, we brought him. Our defense is sick. We brought him William Hayes. Obviously, Wake's still there. Andre Branch we brought back. Jordan Phillips hopefully can make a leap and live up to his talents. Sue, obviously we have Davon coming on, we just drafted, and Taylor. It's going to be interesting to see how we use them in rotation. Obviously I forgot the biggest name is Charles Harris. So we have a really awesome pass rushing sub package now. I think we're going to have our defense is much improved than it was last season, obviously with the addition of Lawrence Timmons and so on and so forth. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, and it's going to be a really good test to gauge how much better the Dolphins are this season than they were a year before, because the Chargers are a good attack offense, so hopefully we can see some improvements in that aspect. And I really want to see this defensive line get after the quarterback. So those are the two things I would look for early on in that matchup. This next question comes from Mike Hanson. He says, after the 2017 NFL draft, where do you think our biggest issues is on the roster, and what are we going to draft next year? Okay, I cannot speak to what we're going to do next year because there's a lot of possibilities that could happen in the 2017 season. There's a lot of interesting prospects coming out in the 2018 draft class, so I'm not going to answer that question, but I will answer what we really didn't address in the 2017 NFL draft, and our biggest issue on the roster, I think, is definitely safety. I think safety is a huge issue that is going to be interesting, and it's going to be one of the biggest storylines in the Dolphins 2017 NFL season. Obviously, TJ McDonald is going to miss half of the NFL season. He's going to miss 8 games. Nate Allen is not a very good safety at all, and he doesn't do anything that the Dolphins really lacked last season. I mean, he's not a good open field tackler. He's not really explosive as an athlete. He's a half decent player in coverage. He's not good against the run at all. So it's some of the things that the Dolphins really struggled with is what Nate Allen does not do well. I mean, he's not a guy who's going to come down and cover a tight end all that well. Thank God we have Rashard Jones, though. Thank God. He's a blessing in disguise because I've seen him, and Dolphins fans have seen him really just be the defense. I mean, we've seen him make insane tackles to save touchdowns, which the Dolphins really missed last season. He's a great open field tackler. I think, in my opinion, he's the best safety in the NFL. I think the Dolphins wanted to take a safety, but they're just not how the board fell. I mean, obviously, I think we could have been a little bit more aggressive in trying to get Marcus Williams. Obviously, he went a pick ahead of us, so we couldn't. Obviously, we didn't have a lot of picks to trade. So it is going to be very, very interesting to see how we handle this. I think we have some depth at the safety position with Michael Thomas. Walt Aikens, I think, has shown some talent there. Obviously, I think we have talent there. Hopefully, they can fill the shoes enough until TJ McDonald can come. This next question comes from Timbo Thomas. He says, since we went out and drafted needs, how good will our defense be this year? It's a very good question. I think people need to pump the brakes a little bit because we did draft a lot of developmental players like Cordrea Tankersley, obviously, Davon and Taylor. It's going to be interesting to see how far along some of these guys are. Hopefully some of these guys surprise us because when I look at Davon, he's more of a third down nickel package, second down, third down, obvious passing down kind of guy. I look at Taylor, he's got a lot of pass rushing skills, but hopefully he can grow into being that nose tackle on first and second down and help us get stronger in the middle of the football field. I look at Charles Harris. Even when we drafted him, exaggerated his run stuff ability. I think he chases the ball too much. He doesn't engage in blockers as much as you would want him to, which is all that is teachable. Everything he has in terms of you can't teach, he has it in spades. It's just he needs to work on a little bit of, work on some technical things in the run game. I think he has all the ability in the world to stuff the run, though. So when you look at this draft, I think other than Asiata, so I shouldn't even bring him up, but other than him, some of these players are really going to have to work hard to show us that, yes, you're an NFL starter this year. Obviously, Xavier Howard and Laramie came in right away for us last season, and a lot of young players over the years for the Dolphins have stepped up in a big way, like Neville Hewitt, like a Mike Hull, like those kinds of players. They have stepped up and made plays, and those guys are undrafted free agents. So how good a player is until they get into the building, and how hard they work through training camp, through the offseason, how much they improve up until preseason, and hopefully we see some of these developmental players come on and they're a little bit more far along than they are. So I think Dolphins fans need to pump their brakes a little bit. Now, having said that, I think all the defensive linemen that we drafted really add versatility and depth to this Dolphins defensive line, and they already added that with the addition of William Hayes, who is a huge underrated signing for the Dolphins. We really improved the depth, improve the versatility. We can really run a lot of sub packages. We don't have to go out and sign stopgap players like a CJ Mosley do that. So it's nice that we added depth, and the future is very, very bright for the Miami Dolphins defense, and I think it's going to be much improved from last season. I really, really do. I think in the run game especially, it's going to be improved. I would expect again our developmental players that a lot of people forget about because it's not the new sexy thing. Obviously, Bobby McCain, Tony Lippett. Hopefully, some of these players, which we saw a ton of growth from last season, take another big step this upcoming season, and I fully expect that to happen. So I think the Dolphins defense is much improved improved from a year ago. This next question comes from Lulu. He says, do you think the Buffalo Bills will be a problem because of their improvement? Obviously, I see a lot of people raving about the pick of Tre'Davious White in the first round. Obviously, the trade that they made with the Kansas City Chiefs, getting their first round pick next season. I see a lot of that, but there's so much dysfunction in the Buffalo Bills organization. I mean, they really, first of all, Tyrod Taylor is no slouch as a quarterback, and I'm a Dolphins fan, and it hurts to say that. Tyrod Taylor is, I think, a really good quarterback. I think he's a terrible pocket passer, but other than that, he's a playmaker. So the ownership doesn't believe in him. From what I've read, the reason they literally fired their GM and their entire scouting staff is because they don't the drafting of EJ Manuel and the contract that they gave Tyrod Taylor. So there is so much dysfunction in that organization. They fired a really good coach in Rex Ryan, who has terrorized the AFC East for a long time, obviously bringing the Jets back-to-back 2 AFC championships. Rex Ryan is one of the best defensive minds in the NFL. He's a really good head coach. All the players that have ever played for him will run through a brick wall for him. So I think they've made some bad on McDermott from the Carolina Panthers staff. I think there's so much dysfunction and a need to change that there's stuff that they really don't need. I mean, they obviously drafted Tre'Davious White, who they let Stephon Gilmore walk out of the building to their division rival, obviously, in the New England Patriots. So, if anything, Tre'Davious White's just going to be just as good as Stephon Gilmore, who's a perennial Pro Bowler. So they didn't really, they added a good special teams player and a punt return, kick return guy, but they really didn't, they're just replacing Stephon Gilmore. And there's just so much dysfunction with the Buffalo Bills. And having said that, the Buffalo Bills do something that we have struggled to stop, and that's run the football. That's why Tyrod Taylor has had so much success against us, is because of the run game. They're obviously first in the NFL in running offense, and that's been a problem for the Miami Dolphins. They have been a problem for a long, even before Tyrod Taylor ever got there. They've been a problem. They've had terrible quarterbacks. It's always been their defense and their run game that's really affected us. And coming out of that Bills place, I think we're really headed in the right direction of being a perennial successful football team, a team that is always competitive. I think we have a way brighter future. This next question comes from Ian Good. He says, do you believe Davon or Taylor can unseat Jordan Phillips towards the end of the season? This is a great question. This goes back to this thing I said before, is everybody likes the new sexy thing. Everybody's just quick to dump other players because they maybe haven't seen enough for them yet. They're just impatient. I don't know what it is. But Jordan Phillips, you guys got to remember, coming out of Oklahoma, had every bit of the athleticism that you look for in a defensive tackle. He had all the talent in the world to be a Pro Bowler on the next level. The only problem with him is consistency, which has been a problem since he's been in the NFL, and it's really frustrating because he has all the talent in the world. So let's just say Jordan Phillips continues to struggle with consistency because he does show flashes of greatness. These two players can, in the future, Taylor and Davon, have a real great chance to be something special, especially Davon. I think he could be a really good pass rusher on the next level. Great first step in his athleticism. Same thing with Taylor. Although he's going to be used as a nose tackle on the next level, he has a lot of pass rushing skills. So I think both of them in the future can be really good players. And maybe we see that in training camp and preseason. Hopefully we see that. And I would look for them, just because of Jordan Phillips' consistency issues, I would look for them both to have a lot more playing time than you think this upcoming season, make a bigger impact than you might think. This next question comes from Nicholas Powell. He says, is Isaiah Ford a better option than Leonte Carroo? No. I think Leonte Carroo, like I said in my Isaiah Ford video, I think Isaiah Ford can come in and help us in the red zone. I think the same thing about Leonte Carroo, but I think his impact is widened now. I think Leonte Carroo has a real chance to be something special. I think, to quote Richard Sherman about Leonte Carroo, this kid has a real future in the NFL, and I really do think he does. I think he has a lot of talent in the world. I think some things that really stunted his growth was the fact that he was learning two different positions. Adam Gase said he's going to correct that in his second year, and he should make way more of an impact than he did last season. And he has a year under his belt in the NFL. So I think his first year, unless Isaiah Ford comes in and is like, a lot of teams shouldn't have passed on you because of his slow 40 time. I really don't see. I think Leonte Carroo has a ton of talent. Obviously, that's the reason we traded up to get him. So I think Leonte Carroo is going to have a bigger impact than Isaiah will. But who knows? We'll see in preseason, in training camp. We'll see. But I really do think Leonte Carroo his talent talent level is off the chart. This next question comes from Archie. He says, thoughts on the safety position, only real question mark left on the Miami Dolphins defense. You are absolutely right, Archie. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Like I said previously in the video, I think we have depth there that can come in and hold ground until TJ McDonald comes back, but it is very interesting that we didn't. I don't think we got the player fell to us that we wanted in the draft, because we met with a ton of safeties. We met with Josh Jones, Obi Milanofalu, we met with Marcus Williams. We met with a lot of safeties last season. I just don't think. Obviously, I think Obi was there actually. I don't know why. I don't know why we didn't draft a safety. I guess we're confident. I mean, our safeties, our backup safeties, our depth at safety was very productive last season. Let's hope that they can come in and hold ground until TJ McDonald comes back. This next question comes from Stave Dog. He says, does Harris seem like a Cameron Wake clone to you? No, actually, he reminds me of Dwight Freeney. To quote a GM in the NFL, you can look up the article online. He said about Charles Harris, he's Dwight Freeney but bigger. He's got the spin move like Dwight Freeney, but he's bigger, longer, and faster, which is scary because Dwight Freeney is one of the greatest pass rushers to ever live. So if Charles Harris can be that, this Dolphin, that would be an absolute steal at 22. And one thing I have to add about Charles Harris, a lot of people forget that there was rumors that Charles Harris was going to be picked from 10 to 15, and he wasn't. And I think that's because Malik Hooker fell in the draft. I think that's because obviously quarterbacks were selected a whole lot earlier than a lot of people thought. I think that's the reason he wasn't selected from 10 to 15, because of that. That is the only reason. So the Dolphins really did a good job of not trading up, staying where they were to get the guy that they really believe in. This next question comes from James Parker. He says, do you think it was a good idea to take McMillan instead of Cunningham in the second round? A lot of Dolphins fans were upset of this because Zach Cunningham was a first-round graded talent. Raekwon McMillan, I think, fits what the Dolphins want to do and what the needs that the Dolphins have more than Zach Cunningham. Zach Cunningham, not a physical linebacker whatsoever. An argument that he's better in coverage, but he surprised a lot of GMs and scouts at the Combine, Raekwon McMillan did, of how explosive of an athlete he actually was. So Raekwon McMillan surprised a lot of people in terms of the athlete that he was. A lot of question marks. Can he be a three-down player on the next level because of that? And I think he answered a lot of those questions. McMillan, to be way better in coverage than a lot of people think. I think the question about Raekwon McMillan on the Dolphins roster is where is he going to play? I think that is going to be the biggest question because he is a true middle linebacker and he's a great one. I think he was an absolute, I guess you could say steal because I really do believe in this kid's talent and his character and he's such a smart middle linebacker, which is what this Dolphins defense really, really needed. This next question comes from Hunter Hayes. He says the front office really concealed their love for Charles Harris. They were going to take him on no matter what and no matter who was on the board. The more I read into the pick, the more I love it. How do you feel about the pick, and do you think it means Cameron Wake only has 1 to 2 years left? I think Cameron Wake had 2 years left anyway. Hopefully he retires a Dolphin. I think he will. I don't think drafting Charles Harris means Cameron Wake's on his way out the door. I think the Dolphins drafted a developmental guy who can sit under Cameron Wake and learn from one of the best to ever do it, which is the greatest. I mean, for all the hate that I think the Dolphins aren't really even getting that much hate. I think most of it is because Reuben Foster was on the board. But Charles Harris as a player is very talented. I mean, obviously he has some things he needs to work on. But learning under Cameron Wake, it's a very special opportunity for Charles Harris, and the kid loves to work, so he's going to really mold into something really special. So I really love the pick, and I don't think drafting him means that he's on his way out the door, but I think he was on his way out the door anyway, and I think maybe he already let the organization know that. So yeah, that's what I think. This next question comes from This is Patrick. He says, how long do you think it'll take for our draft picks, especially Charles Harris and Raekwon McMillan, will take to make an impact? I think both of them have a really, really good chance of making an impact right away, especially Charles Harris on third and second down, obvious passing situations. I think Charles Harris is going to bring a little bit more than more Dolphins fans and analysts think because of his work ethic and working behind Cameron Wake, so he has a real opportunity to come in and do something really, really special. As for Raekwon McMillan, the only thing that's standing in his way of starting day one is how the Dolphins view Lawrence Timmons. Do the Dolphins view Lawrence Timmons as this old vet? Did we promise him he'd play the middle linebacker position? Is that one of the reasons he signed here in Miami? It's depending on how we view Lawrence Timmons is really going to affect how Raekwon McMillan's playing time will be dispersed, I guess you could say. This next question comes from the gamer. He says, who is your favorite draft pick from the 2017 draft, and who is your least favorite? Okay, so this is a hard question. I think my favorite would have to be Matt Asiata, because I think he's going to start day one. I think he has all the talent in the world to be a very, very good guard. He was graded as a late, mid, second round talent. He obviously fell all the way to the 5th round. Who knows why he fell? I think that's still a mystery, and I still don't understand why. I don't think it has anything to do with character. Maybe it's how aggressive he plays. But he really, to be honest with you guys, he really reminds me of Richie Incognito. He really, really, really reminds me of him. Just with the ability with strength and the way he pulls like Richie can, he really reminds me of him. So that's my favorite. I really don't have a least favorite. I think the least favorite thing I think the Dolphins probably did that I didn't understand and maybe didn't like is not their fault, actually. I think it's how much ammo we had to use. We didn't have a lot of ammo to, I think, trade up. I think in some areas which we would have done. We just didn't have a lot of ammo to do so. It's really unfortunate, but that was probably my least favorite thing that happened in the 2017 draft. So that is going to be it, guys. I am Skaggs83. This is probably going to go down as the best one yet, I think. I like all the questions I got. I'm trying to make it shorter because I think to condense it and so I don't ramble on as much. Let me know if you guys want it to be a podcasty feel, or do you want it to be more edited like this one. And I am Skaggs83. Thank you for all your questions. It means a great deal to me. And if you want to be involved in the Q&A, make sure you follow the community and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.